Well, hi there. Happy Monday. Looks like we all survived the weekend. I hope you're fine. It was a nice weekend, a productive weekend. Got a lot done. It is now Monday, October the 14th, 2019. Journal number 195, T plus 195. I was a little bit late to get started on the blog. I recognize that, but was busy doing a lot of things, one of which led me to the topic for tonight. Uh, so it's not altogether bad. Everything works out in the end. And if it's not yet worked out, as they said in the Marigold Hotel, it's not the end yet. So I want to talk about friendship to a degree. And this could be kind of stream of consciousness because I didn't really prepare anything. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what I would say. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about friendship. Um, and what constitutes the company of good friends and how important that is to us as creatures on this planet, how critically important this idea of community is and the important role that friends within that community can play. And my mind is drawn back to probably the only other time I was hospitalized, which was when I was about 19, 18 or 19 years old. And I was misdiagnosed with an incarcerated, strangulated ephemeral hernia, which is a hernia that's allowed uh, part of your guts to get stuck in between your tissue, in between the muscle sinew, and get strangulated. It's a very dangerous thing. And the surgery, despite the fact that it was a misdiagnosis, when they went in there to operate on the hernia and found out it was really uh, acute lymphadenitis, it was an inflammation of lymph nodes. Everything went fine. They removed that particular node. Um, and surgery was a success, but the patient almost died. Um, I wound up with a hospital-borne infection, a methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aurora infection. That was horrible for then, but still far less dangerous than they are today. And in order to uh, in order to remove the infection, because they didn't have the antibiotics necessary to do that at the time, what saved my life was an experimental drug called Keflin or Keflex at the time, which is Keflin, and it's it's kind of a standard antibiotic now, really powerful antibiotic. For those of us who are allergic to penicillin, it's the only thing that would work back then, and that was, that was putting your money down and taking your chances with how the dice rolled. But what happened was they told me after I started to come out of the days of really high fever, dangerously high fever, uh, fever where they pack you in ice and they put gauze in your mouth so you don't break your teeth because they're chattering so badly, because your temperature's swinging so wildly, um, that I'd have to go into isolation. You're talking about an 18, 19-year-old kid who wasn't buying what they were selling. And I told the doctor, I said, is there anything that we can do so I can leave this place? Because at that point in that hospital, isolation was down in the catacombs of the basement. And it meant hospital gowns and masks. And it wasn't exactly the way I wanted to spend the next 6 months. So they allowed me to go home. And if you're wondering where all this is going, is the only thing that kept me alive or sane, or as sane as I am, which is not saying a whole lot anyway, uh, was the company of good friends. And that didn't happen often, by the way. The majority of my friends at that point, the other folks I knew that were the same age, avoided me like I had the plague. partially because of the immaturity, partially because of lack of understanding. I mean, I'm not sure what it was. I'm sure that a big part of it was the recognition that something like that could happen to them just as easily as it happened to me, and that thought was terrifying. But the one or two people or three people that did come by, even sporadically, was enough to make me want to get better. If you fast forward that, if you fast forward that to the end of March of this year and the beginning of April, um, through the chemotherapy, through the conditioning, through the transplant, through my experience as an inpatient, and then following that, living out in Agora in a high state or high level of paranoia, recognizing that I had to avoid contact with people. It was the genuine goodness of folks that dropped by City of Hope to donate blood, to donate platelets, and to call, or even to come by the hospital to see Leslie, that helped me get through everything. That and this blog. Um, this blog provided a conduit for bidirectional communication that I would not have had otherwise. And through the comments and the responses of the folks listening to the blog and relating to it, the people for whom it resonated, and their willingness to communicate that back to me, uh, was worth more than anything that you could probably think of or name. It certainly was more than I could think of or communicate back. It's a debt that is hard to repay, and the only way in which it can be repaid is if you do exactly that. You pay it back to somebody else who's ill, and make sure that in the course of their recovery that you're there for them, even if it's a stranger, even if it's somebody that you don't know well, but certainly if it's a friend. So I've been blessed. I have more good friends, more great friends, more 3 o'clock in the morning friends than I certainly deserve. I mean, I try to be a good friend, but people have been better to me than I have any right to have expected. And that level of gratitude, that appreciation that you feel as a result of that, the nurturing that comes along with it, the compassion, the understanding, and the genuine excitement when things start going well is something that you take to heart and you cherish, and you put it in a place where you can store it so that at some point in the future you can give it to someone else. What you learn from all of your good friends, I believe, if you're aware and awake enough to look, to see, to feel, is how to be a good friend. Or perhaps maybe it's the other way around. Maybe because you are a good friend and because you listen and you're compassionate, empathetic, and you care, um, you attract good friends. I'm sure it's a little bit of both. But recognize how important it is to be in the company of good friends. I do. Uh, it's hard not to when you're in a situation like mine, and you have literally ridden um, on the wings of those good friends, and as they carry you to recovery or through recovery to wellness. So if you can, be amongst others in the company of good friends, and if you're a recipient of that friendship, if you're the target of that friendship, enjoy it, appreciate it for what it is, cherish it. Um, it's the nourishment you'll need in order to get through whatever it is you're trying to get through. On that note, I'll leave you. So stay well, take care. Talk to you tomorrow.